Fantastic. Welcome. Hi, everybody. This is Monica, Empower Your Health, Empower Your Life TV. And for those who are listening on live on YouTube today, or those who are listening to the recording, I have utmost gratitude for your time and your attention, because I know there's so much that's competing for it on the social media and elsewhere. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I promise you will not be disappointed, because we will deliver you outstanding value with our amazing guests today. I promise we have a guest that I've been looking forward to talking with today very much, and I'm very excited. And just wanted to tell you about Empower TV, our project. We're dedicated to bringing you outstanding leaders, thinkers, pioneers, and change makers in the area of individual and community health. And the single goal is to bring you inspiration to take action and empower yourself. So, like I said, I have a guest today that I'm very excited. I've been looking forward to speaking with him, because he's going to bring some new perspectives to you, and hopefully, inspire you on many different levels. So let's welcome Alex Landry. Alex is 29 years old, and he hails from Cornwall, Ontario, Canada. And growing up, he lived in Canada, New York, Ohio, and then Florida. And he relocated to Kaua'i in 2012, and he has thrived there for 5 years now, on and off. But he currently lives in Tampa Bay, Florida. And Alex is actually going to earn his real estate license next week. Congratulations. And his focus in real estate is investments, developments, and property management, with a niche in permaculture design. Alex's mission is social entrepreneurship and economic diplomacy, because his vision is world peace. His value is Arete, and for those of you who don't know, it's a Greek word, and it means that he's focused on the highest quality of everything he does and experiences. Alex is also a reporter, a video host, and aspiring director of public relations for the National Health Federation, the world's oldest and largest health freedom fighting organization. Alex is a network developer and health freedom warrior. So like I said, I was very excited to invite Alex here because, to me, he really represents the true nature of, the new entrepreneurship. He is working in his community, making real changes, but also, he embraces a really, really global view and understanding of finances, governance, politics, health, in many different areas and subjects. And, thirdly, what I saw in Alex, that he brings this big heart and commitment and care for his community and the people around him. So this is really, for me, he's a model of the new entrepreneur. And I cannot wait for him to share with us and talk about his projects. And so welcome, Alex. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for that introduction. And I'm not sure if there's a setting right now, but I can't turn on my video.
Yeah, I can only see your Moringa Man right now. Let me see here. I don't see that I could change that for you. Let me
because
when
I hit start video, it's not letting me.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I wonder if try that. I'm asking you this.
There we go. I think.
Got it? Okay.
Let's see.
Well, we're back. No.
No, weird. Okay, here I am.
You got it. Welcome. Hi. Welcome. How's it going?
Hi, Monica. Hello, everybody.
Hi. Well, how is it going? Tell us what's present for you today.
Well, it's an extremely beautiful day here in sunny Florida. I was at the park for the last few hours due to, I'm not sure, I'm not hitting anything for the video.
I'm not either, huh? Try it again. Here we go.
Yeah, okay. I hope it stays.
Let's keep the fingers crossed.
but yeah, so due to gyms being closed, I got really inspired about a month ago when I bought gymnastic rings that like gymnasts use. And so it's a gym, a portable gym, really. So
Yeah.
I was doing a little bit of that and connecting with, various people, enjoying the park, and I could go on and on. I'm just feeling very fortunate and grateful because our Florida economy is opening up tomorrow. So I really hope that a lot of people are appreciative to start, getting back into the swing of things. And I actually have plans. I'm going to be up early. I've been up since 7:30 this morning today, and tomorrow I'll be up at the same time, and I'll go straight to Honeymoon Island because it's been about 40 days since it was last open, and I was actually there on the last day that it was open. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I also want to make sure, because supposedly our sheriff department, they may be there like enforcing, because our commissioners are trying to be a little draconian by saying things like no recreation, really, no chairs and things like that. So I just kind of want to go assess the situation for myself, being a independent reporter, citizen journalist, constantly trying to keep myself up to date and our community, as well. So yeah, and I just enjoyed an incredible salad, really nourishing, and I'm excited for this conversation right now, and
Wow.
appreciate your enthusiasm as well.
Well, thank you so much. Yes, I'm very excited to speak with you. And you know what? This is awesome. Like you're already kind of going to investigate and be a reporter tomorrow. And congratulations, you guys in Florida. I think this is fantastic. And I hope, we all are going to be opening up. Your video's off again, unfortunately. So, but let's just roll with it, however we can.
I've never had this problem before.
Yeah. Do you want to just chat for a while and see yeah, here we go. You're back again. Wow. You're just in and out. I wonder what that means, right?
Well, it's funny because, we don't have to necessarily talk about this, but the reality is you and I, all of our viewers, listeners, we're made up of atoms. And, a little above that is we're made up of cells. So we're made up of approximately 70 to 100 trillion cells. And each cell is made up of trillions of atoms. And at the quantum level, the subatomic particles that make up atoms are actually popping in and out of existence all the time. So this gets into quantum physics, and in my opinion, quantum physics is actually the most rigorous science on our planet. So just just a little something. We got blending in the quantum with the physical aspect as well too.
Exactly. Yeah, this is what really draw my attention to your to your work, that you are kind of going between really putting your hands on the ground literally and working with the earth, working with your communities, but also learning and embracing like a larger picture of what life is on this planet. And like I said, even going into physics and going into governance, the large structures. So that just really drew my attention. And like I said, this for me, it's like a mark of a true entrepreneur and a true a visionary, that we all need to step up into that vision. So this is what I really appreciate about you. So can you tell us more about your background, where you how you came into where you are right now and what you're doing?
So yeah, a little, to try to be as concise as possible, I graduated from Palm Harbor University High School in 2008. I was part of the Center for Wellness and Medical Professions, and I became a state certified nurse assistant while in high school. And I also was a 4-year varsity wrestler in high school. So that all being said, I started developing my intuition right towards the end of high school, kind of, by critically thinking, but then also some of the endurance that I went through as a wrestler, like being able to kind of tap in to this deep energy inside of me when I would fast for, like 3 weeks, not eat food. And that's when I kind of started having some revelations about the quantum aspects of reality, how what is really spinning our atoms right now, is it the food we're eating and this deeper nature of reality. So anyways, the Center for Wellness and Medical Profession was somewhat tailored towards the pharmaceutical industry, because that's the model of medicine here in our country. And so I got accepted into Florida State University, and I was kind of playing around with that whole idea, like how that would play out, because I had been up to Tallahassee a few times and understood the lifestyle up there of partying and all of that, and the cost of going to college. So anyways, my intuition started really becoming activated, and I decided to work full-time at a nursing home and rehabilitation center called Baytree. And I figured out how that employer would finance my career development. So instead of going through the standard model of college and pre-med and med school, I was like, okay, I can be a state certified nurse. And after a couple years, they'll finance me to be like an LPN and then an RN. And then I had the goal to be a nurse practitioner. But anyways, I worked there for almost 2 years. And that was enough because I really started building rapport with my patients that I was caring for. And I just was inside the belly of the beast, like just understanding what is wrong at a root cause with our society, like abandoning our elders. And it's just really backwards and, kind of the darker aspects of the pharmaceutical model. And so I just started, questioning things, and then this led to more intuition, more spirituality. And in 2011, the same earlier that year that I quit being a nurse and wanted to switch gears and create a new reality for myself, I discovered permaculture. And permaculture just really expanded my mind big time into how I can live in harmony with nature. And so that brought me to Kaua'i. And on one hand, I was somewhat prepared because a lot of different experts had talked about 2012 and the Mayan calendar. And so I figured going out to a place like Kaua'i would, be good and advantageous. And it really was just incredible because it was an opportunity for me to trust in the unknown and develop a bond and relationship with the unknown, which I have taken with me since. And now I'm on a mission here because it's very isolated, out in Kaua'i. It's approximately 4,500 miles from here. It's the most isolated, populated place on the planet. So, there's in this greater Tampa Bay area, there's almost 4 million people, like including the Tampa metropolitan area and Sarasota. And Pinellas County is actually the most densely populated county in Florida. So there really is this opportunity to raise the collective vibration here. And then because of all the experiences I've had in Hawaii, I have a ecological perspective. Because as you and I know, with Thrive and living our potential, it all starts with our worldview. And so our worldview is everything. So it's really important to have a worldview that's interconnected, and we have a close connection with nature. So yeah, I'm working on this. I do some public speaking about Moringa, primarily, and I'm working on consolidating this whole story because I could, share a lot, and
Right. Well, I mean, there's so many different areas and aspects that you're involved with, from what I understand. And it may still, I mean, do you feel like it's challenging to bring it all together and explain where you're coming from?
It depends who I'm communicating with.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I have to feel out the consciousness of a person I'm communicating with and basically tailor my thoughts to their consciousness so it doesn't go over their head. So that's why it's really important to, overall, I am an active listener. So I appreciate when I'm around other active listeners, because really that's how we gauge where somebody's consciousness is at, through listening.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Thanks so much for bringing that up, because listening is something that we are still needing to develop, I think, on a larger scale. And can you, but tell us more. I mean, I'm really interested more about your background and your different projects that you're working on. Can you tell us more about your work with NHF and then you work with Moringa, and how does that, how does it all tie into one picture?
Yeah, so the National Health Federation is the world's oldest and largest health freedom fighting organization. I had the opportunity to meet the president of the National Health Federation over 10 years ago when I attended a global truth conference called the Alternative View 4. And this was all at the same time of getting out of the old reality I was in of being a nurse assistant. So it was really paramount in where I am now. And thanks to his presentation, I learned about what's called a Codex Alimentarius, which is Latin for food code. And it's the highest body on the planet that determines food standard policies. So if it wasn't for the National Health Federation, our food standards would be lower than what they are right now. So obviously, due to the work I've been doing with Moringa is the world's most nutrient-dense plant. And then it segues into permaculture, because in permaculture, when we think about plants, we filter it through the lens of the benefits of the plants, the uses, and this gets into design, like how we will plant certain plants, next to each other. So in permaculture design, Moringa is considered a top permaculture plant. Like a comparable plant is the coconut tree. And so it's about stacking functions. So all these different uses. So the fact that Moringa, the leaves contain 92 nutrients, that makes it the world's most nutrient dense plant. And then the leaves are actually 30% protein by weight. So this is a whole education for anybody to understand where protein comes from. Protein comes from plants and their symbiotic relationship with microbes, because it's the microbes in the soil that convert atmospheric nitrogen into protein. And then animals eat the plants and then they accumulate protein. So we kind of hear this in biology, like it's our, the way our genes work and proteins and synthesis and all of that. So it's really important. So I'm talking about this at a DNA level, but I don't like to go woo woo, but there is that whole aspect, because when we connect with plant medicine, we're connecting with the essence, the energy, the spirit per se of the plant. So I've really just been guided. So I discovered Moringa in 2011, the same time I discovered permaculture. And then I basically put Moringa on the back burner because in Kaua'i, there's such an abundance of not just tropical plants, but Kaua'i actually has one of the highest concentrations of both endangered plants and endemic. So for our viewers who don't know, endemic just means a plant that's found nowhere else, or it's known to be found nowhere else. So when we think about this from a genetic perspective, this is very fascinating. So I'm a docent with the National Tropical Botanical Gardens. I did my training in 2014, and I'm just a perpetual learner. So the reason why I'm involved in all these projects is because I know that we're all infinite, and I know that we're all invincible, and I know that learning never exhausts the mind, and it's a balance, it's a paradox that learning goes hand in hand with letting go and, being able to have that Zen, state of mind. So there's just complete synergy with permaculture, National Health Federation, Moringa. But I will say with the National Health Federation, because we're such an established organization and we're the only consumer protection based organization that's credited to attend these Kodak meetings, we have to be focused on the hard science. So I can't get into, some of this conversation that I'm talking about with with the type of work we're doing with the National Health Federation, because then we would have a reputation of going woo woo, and we have to be focused on the hard science. So I appreciate your curiosity and my background and the various projects that I'm involved in. And, I really never feel a need to have to explain myself, to
No,
anybody.
sure.
I just am an example, of what I want to see in the world. And I learned a long time ago to never give people unsolicited advice, and that the greatest service I can do for humanity is my own self-transformation. So a lot of this stuff, like with the National Health Federation, it's interesting because I really feel like it's been no effort on my part. It's just something that's manifested, and it feels the same way with permaculture and moringa, and this is our true purpose that we manifest. And now it all ties into what I'm doing with real estate and being able to bridge the gap between intentional community, eco villages, what is called sustainable development, with the reality of real estate as it is, like in the here and now, and that bigger picture. And then even, I have a background in helping with farm planning, from logistics of like orchard design to even doing like vetting for labor, for farmers. So that whole aspect. And yeah, and then I've been part of the Thrive movement for almost 9 years as well. So that's like a whole nother topic, because that starts getting into what we could call breakthrough energy technology, our free energy, which is just completely going to transform our whole way of life, because the largest industry on the planet is energy. And it's been suppressed because of this, learning experience that we're all going through right now. Because each of us have certain spiritual lessons that we wanted to learn while we were here right now, and nobody can explain this to anybody else. It comes from being connected with our inner self.
Yes, beautiful. I love that you bring the importance of inner work and spiritual work, and that this is our individual journey, but we still live in a collective. So it's a constant interweaving, in my perspective, between the two. And can you tell us what I would like to hear a little bit more before we move on? Can you tell us more about how this inner transformation manifested for you, and what are the practices, and how do you approach that whole subject?
Well, I feel a lot of it has to do with breathing, with focusing more on our breathing, because that is an access to the subconscious mind, because approximately 95% of our behavior is based on subconscious. Right. So a way that we can bring more intentionality to the subconscious is through breath. And then through that, just being able to like journal and track our time, and just ask ourselves certain questions, because we live in a society, a civilization, an age of information overload, sensory overload. But when we ask ourselves questions, it's the opposite. It's information output. So a good question is, what is my purpose? Why do I exist? So it's up to somebody to ask themselves these questions, and it's best to ask them after doing some of the conscious breathing, to really be able to be in a calm state, because this also gets into our relationship with our emotions, and whatever we want to call it, like I mentioned a moment ago, our subconscious programs. So a lot of us have been through trauma. I've been traumatized. I've felt a lot of pain, but my ability to embrace it has enabled me to have this confidence that I have. And it's also very effective in public speaking, because people don't always want to hear about how successful someone is and how someone's living their potential. People want authenticity, and when someone can be vulnerable and raw, and then that's where all the magic happens, you know, the inner transformation, you know, and it gives other people an opportunity to also be authentic and to be raw. And then this all comes back to being able to ask ourselves these important questions about why do we do what we do, and then to even be able to have a vision of what we can be, what humanity can be, what the world can be. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's like Dr. Martin Luther King, I have a dream. But the challenge, and it's an opportunity, is to behave as if the dream is already happening. And that's when the manifestation starts occurring. And it becomes easy when we tap in to the quantum field and realize that that's where all possibilities emerge from. And that there's kind of like an echo effect, you know, like the way we see things is somewhat an echo of the past. And we just have to have that vision, you know, kind of like this focus on the vision that brings the vision to us, instead of us always having to work so hard, like towards some type of vision. Like I'm seeing right now, like the analogy of you know, the carrot in front of the rabbit, you know, and it never gets to catch the carrot, but it's the idea of then just being in vibrational alignment with the carrot to just have it come to you. Because I'm not a physicist, but there is a whole aspect of like vacuum dynamics, or what's called vortex-based mathematics, which gets into energy dynamics and the torus, which comes back to thrive. And that's why thrive is like a good structure that I have, because that's why when you were kind of asking me originally about my background and various projects, I tried to share thrive with you, because it becomes a template to then see how what appears to be all over the place is actually harmoniously integrated.
Beautiful. And, you know, we are conscious creators, and it's all about, I feel part of it is also the discipline of actually following through and trusting the vision and actually doing the work of creating the vision inside of us. It is a kind of work, you know, it does take focus and being centered. So I think that's what's really coming up for me right now. But yeah, I mean, I would love to talk about Thrive and how you incorporate that. And because I felt this is a really good sort of a structure to bring together the individual work and the inner work into the work within larger systems in the society and on the global scale. So yeah, so would you like to tell us more about your work with Thrive and, you know, the background and all that?
Yeah, so I've shared with you the individual questionnaire. I've shared it with a lot of people, but yeah, you can pull it up.
I'm going to share it on the screen just for people to see it, and we can keep on talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you again for filling your form out, because I've asked, you know, a lot of people, you know, where I'm just like, you know, I've learned to not really even ask, you know, because it's kind of like, you know, I'll just share the form and be like, hey, when you have the time, I'd love to see what your questionnaire looks like. And it's interesting because a lot of people just don't really get around to it, you know, and I've heard from a decent amount of people like, oh, they can't really decide, you know, they can't like just pick which sector they feel most interested in or attracted to. And it's interesting. So on one hand, the mission with Thrive is just imagine if, let's say we start with just 1% of our population fills out this form, you know, and then we start scaling up incrementally from there. So you've seen the Thrive documentary?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, just like that documentary, it's very encompassing, it's multidisciplinary, but what it really provides is a common narrative, because as we see here, the worldview is everything. Everything is centered around the worldview. So that's why even at the beginning of this form, it says, I just pulled mine out because this is one of
Yeah,
mine
the beginning.
a year ago. Yeah.
Where you can use at the very beginning, you can use this questionnaire to explore and focus your interests so that you're always putting your energy into the areas that you're naturally drawn to and that give you the most energy. I love that.
Well, what's interesting is this is like this questionnaire is actually part of almost like I think it's 28 or a 30-page like solution toolkit that Thrive made, you know? So this gets into groups. So like when a group comes together and they're all, you know, maybe they have anxiety or they feel concerned about something, it's an opportunity to communicate that and then to focus on solution. And I believe I shared with you, Monica, on the Thrive YouTube, the founders of Thrive, Kimberly and Foster, talk about how they utilized this template to stop $1 billion Homeland Security funded toxic spray program.
Yeah.
You know, and they got it done in like 6 months. So it's just amazing, you know? So a lot of times, a lot of different conversations I can always come back to this, you know, because there's so many different topics that people are interested in, but really at the root, a lot of it's like trying to get to the truth and like navigating. I don't mean to like, you know, curse, but there's just so much bullshit. So you got to be able to navigate around the bullshit. And I have a really close friend in Kaua'i who taught me like, you know, just like a lot of bullshit floats on an ocean of truth. And, you know, that's another topic, but just all the deception that's going on in the world, it's because of different narratives. So this all comes back to the Thrive documentary, which came out November 11th, 2011. It's all about a common narrative. So we can have an accurate worldview or perception of the world right now, or at least on planet Earth, you know, because that's kind of like step one, because a lot of people are walking around with models in their mind of reality that is not congruent with reality, like how it actually is, you know, because reality, it's like a giant puzzle, you know, and we have to put these puzzle pieces together, and it's somewhat, you know, cryptic. So yeah, so Thrive helps explain this. It talks a lot about the banking system and getting into the Federal Reserve, how the Federal Reserve is actually a quasi-governmental, and what that means is it's owned and operated by a private corporation, so it has no loyalty to our country. You know, so I mean, this is just a lot of people are walking around and they may not know this. And even in like economic courses, this isn't really taught. You know, this knowledge is suppressed, and that's kind of the purpose of Thrive, is uncovering suppressed knowledge, which really is inside of all of us. And I'm no expert in this, but there's what's called, you know, our dormant DNA, but really it's not dormant. It's just waiting for the right signal from a accurate worldview to unleash or unlock our creative potential. So it's all through Thrive. As soon as it came out that year, a group of friends of mine, we got permission from Kimberly and Foster to just burn a bunch of copies of Thrive. And we were just giving out like tons and tons of copies. And then we put on an event that we called Truth Be Told. And the same president of the National Health Federation was one of the speakers there, and a few other they're called delegates or ambassadors for the Resonance Project, because the top scientist or physicist in Thrive is Nassim Haramein, and I had the opportunity to be a volunteer for him in Kaua'i when his Resonance Science Foundation headquarters were in Kaua'i as well, and he's helped pioneer primarily physics papers that describe the unified field and how we're all connected. And Nassim does a great job in Thrive talking about that. But then one thing's led to another. I connected for the first time with Foster Gamble in person in October 2013 at the Global Breakthrough Energy Conference, which was a collection of inventors that have built technology that's based on this Taurus blueprint. And that was just next level. And, you know, that was almost 7 years ago. And now Foster a lot of this has to be kept under wraps, you know, due to the NDAs and things like that. But Thrive 2 should be premiering this year, which is called like, This Is What It Takes. So Thrive, the first Thrive was like, what on earth will it take? Like the vision is us all thriving, you know, us all living our potential. And now 9 years later, it's this is what it takes. And it kind of comes back to the worldview, but energy and just us all evolving our consciousness. And this may be an opportunity for not just our human consciousness to evolve, but consciousness as we know it, you know, that this is some grand experiment that we're involved in right now. And our ability to collectively do shadow integration, this union of opposites, can actually birth a new form of unity consciousness. So kind of the backstory, I think I shared with you, but for our viewers, it was actually Barbara Marx Hubbard who pioneered this wheel that we're looking at right now. And she got a lot of her inspiration from Buckminster Fuller. And for our viewers, listeners haven't heard of him, please look up his quotes, his insights, his contributions to humanity. You know, he was like a president of Mensa, but he was just so humble, and he understood. We learned through experiences, and yeah, I could go on and on, but a cool contribution he made. It's called epimuralism. It means doing more with less. So eventually we can do anything with nothing. And this comes back to being an entrepreneur, how entrepreneurs can literally, you know, identify a need in the market and deliver a solution and create a company, a business, like from nothing. And it's just really incredible, this opportunity. So, you know, this then gets into mindset and the importance of being able to think, you know, like an entrepreneur as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is beautiful. So, you know, it's really, like you say, mindset and a worldview, and really what we embody within our own psyche, with our own mental mindset. And from there, you know, it's the solutions come out, the solutions actually manifest. So we can create things that, you know, may appear as impossible. And then we go into, you know, the whole concept of free energy and the whole concept of, you know, actually being able to thrive on the planet. And I think this is something like, for me, I want to just talk about it and like have as many people come in here to talk about it and share the vision, because it's almost like we need to find as much voice about what is actually possible and what is actually available to humans versus, you know, the kind of still unfortunately dominant narratives. So I just really appreciate you talking about Thrive. And, you know, I'm super excited about the second sequel that's coming up, because, you know, this has been almost 10 years now since the first Thrive. And I think things really changed. You know, what are your thoughts on that? Where are we? How are we evolving as humanity? Where are we going right now? How did things change over the last 10 years?
Well, see, it's interesting because on one hand, that's relative. You know, it's relative to individuals. You know, some individuals might feel like not much has changed. You know, so it's relative, and but it's interesting because for me, the top sector I'm interested in is health. So then it kind of explains what I'm involved in and what I give most of my energy to, and then what also gives energy back as well. You know, and then the idea of immediate need. So what I'm doing with Moringa is to help people, because we can't think clearly if we're not meeting our body's daily nutritional needs. So, you know, you go to a grocery store, there's an illusion of all these different options. There isn't really nutrient dense food. So the idea of starting to like provide our body with a surplus of nutrition, of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, it allows us to, you know, think better. So that's kind of why I'm so focused on the immediate needs, because I don't want to continue to give fish. I want to teach people how to fish.
Mhm.
That's the idea of like being an entrepreneur as well. You know, that's what entrepreneurs do. Leaders create leaders, entrepreneurs create entrepreneurs. And also the consciousness shift as well is really important, because as we shift our own individual consciousness, it becomes easier for others to shift their consciousness, whether this is through the collective consciousness, whether it's through what's called morphic resonance, the morphogenetic fields that govern biological systems. Just had to
Hmm.
take a nice breath as well.
Yeah, that was good. We can always stop and breathe, you know. I mean, that's what it is. We're in our bodies. It's very interesting with the virtual, you know, like just being on Zoom um, and you know how much we're like spending time, how much time we're spending on the computer, and within this whole framework of you know, internet connection, and so that's been on my mind a lot, you know, how this actually can influence our health or not. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that, you know, to me, actually, there is a huge change that's happening on the planet. You know, there's a huge amount of evolution and shifts and consciousness change, and it may not still be fully visible. So that's why I was asking about, you know, were you seeing things in terms of like the last 10 years?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I see it very obvious.
mhm.
I see
Right.
what's been like operating in the shadows is now being brought to light.
Exactly.
But
Yes.
it's up to an individual to have courage, because why I mention it's relative, people can choose to deny, you know? So it's interesting. And that's, you know, it's a coping mechanism. So for some people that don't want their worldview to be shattered,
Mhm.
they can
Mhm.
just deny like what's happening, you know. So that's why it's like a relative process. And then the
Right.
fact that we each at a soul level have a unique soul agreement of what was in the best interest of our soul to grow and to have certain, you know, lessons here, you know. So there's kind of that whole aspect, and there's really no rush, because there really is no such
Mhm.
time, you know. I mean, I understand, yes, we use time to like coordinate and schedule, but in the higher realms of existence, everything is right now.
Yes. I feel like, wow, I mean, there's just so many different directions we can take this conversation into. And can you, I'm really still interested about your work with permaculture, and, you know, because this is what's fascinating to me about your work, is that you've really very seamlessly traveled between the, you know, work on the ground and working with your communities, and actually embracing a larger view. And it's very, I mean, this is exactly what I feel this is natural to human beings. This is what we're capable of, and that's how we want to live. I want to live like that, but it seems like, you know, a lot of people these days are so wrapped up in kind of a very um, everyday kind of life and struggles, that maybe we don't allow ourselves to go out there and actually explore the larger picture and ask ourselves those questions about what our worldview is. So what you do is, say, through the permaculture example, like you're bringing this larger perspective on what life is, what energy is, how we coexist with Earth, into you know, everyday living, creating food and creating communities. So can you talk a little bit more about your work in this area, and how, you know, how the whole permaculture project works in your communities, and, you know, whatever else comes up in this.
Well, I will say something I learned a while ago is semantics. So if right now, if we were to interview 20 people and ask them to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
describe permaculture, we'd hear 20 different responses. So for me, permaculture is unity consciousness. It's ecological consciousness. So it's actually being really interested in plants, and really, you know, being really interested in learning about them and connecting with them and their uses. And so the whole vision of permaculture is a culture that's harmoniously integrated with nature. And so I've been doing my best to be that example. So I've been our permaculture director for the Earth Nation since 2017. And I've been waiting on consciousness to rise more, for that. But with Earth Nation, I was a part of a project where we compiled a spreadsheet of all the permaculture intentional communities on the planet. So all in all, permaculture related or not, I'm a network builder. I love connecting with people. I love forging relationships. And more importantly, I love introducing people, when I see a potential that maybe they're not like seeing because they haven't met each other yet, so permaculture is really just how can we surrender and allow nature's intelligence to guide our decisions and our behavior. And then it also gets into just being natural. And this is why I'm doing what I'm doing with real estate, because there's certain building codes and government designated zoning that somewhat prevents permaculture or bottlenecks. But on one hand, every challenge is also an opportunity. So really permaculture is, like I've been saying, it's about relationships. So it's getting to know, neighbors and things like that. Composting. I've lived in various intentional communities, to experiment. And what I've learned is an intentional community can't function until there's a group of people that have all done their shadow work, that have all gone through learning nonviolent communication, which is a big part of the Thrive movement, understanding conflict resolution, nonviolent communication, consensus building. I mean, these are leadership qualities, but they're also qualities of an intentional group. So the wheel doesn't have to be recreated. There's already been tribes that have existed for a long time that have existed harmoniously with nature, and then they are aligned with the principles of nature. We treat people the way we want to be treated, and it really is simple, and permaculture, we say things like all problems can be solved in a garden. And so somehow I'm just being guided, and that's what I'm doing.
Beautiful. Wow. Do you want to talk more about the Thrive movement and what opportunities there are for people to get involved and try to start to really inquire deeper?
Yeah, well, anybody can watch the film and then, share it with their friends and family. And then the next step is to form a solution group. So I formed solution groups here out in Kaua'i. And once again, it's an art because of time and people's priorities and, having somebody watch Thrive. And it's one thing to watch something, it's something else to really let it sink in, because for somebody new to Thrive, the way the information has sunk in is that they no longer are the person they were before they watched it. They're a whole new person, So the idea is I haven't been keeping track, but there's thousands of solution hubs all around the planet where people come together in groups and they just communicate with each other about needs, about resources, about concerns, and then are able to, match resources to needs and able to match solutions to concerns, and then share into a database. Because a lot of times, kind of like what Kimberly and Foster did, stopping that $1 billion toxic spray program, certain flyers they made, certain legal documents and such have been shared throughout the network, because then there's other groups, kind of like when I was in Kaua'i and I was utilizing this model, we actually got a bill passed where we became the first county in the state of Hawaii to make the biotech cartel disclose their pesticide use. But then we ended up learning like how far the corruption goes upstream, that they actually sued the county for the bill that we passed because they had, legal representation saying how they are federally regulated industry and a county doesn't have jurisdiction over them, But anyways, it's all like a learning opportunity, but that was like our biggest concern on Kaua'i. And so we did various things, like there's a food forest project, almost 3-acre food forest project that's state of the art, like world class. It's a botanical library and resource for the community. And that's a big part of, permaculture, because eventually that's the main vision of permaculture. How can we meet our needs on a specific, piece of land? But then this gets into community and, really, like I've mentioned, the wheel doesn't have to be recreated. So I'm really interested in the Native Americans that lived in the area where I am right now, the Takaboga Indians. And then when I'm in Kaua'i, I'm really interested in the ancient Hawaiians and how they lived and their relationship with plants and energy and collective consciousness. And so really it's, like I've been mentioning, everything's like relative. So it's up to other people to also be interested in this, because every day we have an opportunity. We all are given this gift of time, 24 hours, and we can choose to focus on anything. And the opportunity is to focus on really big, visions, but then to be able to be like a bridge between the big visions to, this earth that really is the source of providing all of our nourishment and needs, and just being the epitome of just a loving mother that just gives selfishly or selflessly, to us. And is encouraging our fulfillment of collective potential. So yeah, lots happened in the last 10 years. I will say a lot of corruption has been exposed, and I feel like everything's happening right on schedule. But like I joked about, in the higher realms, it's only right now. Everything's happening right now. So there's kind of that conundrum.
Yes, that is, I mean, but it gives us power too, because then we can see, we're not just, I think there's still this overwhelming sense for many people that we're sort of like pieces of the puzzle that somebody's, maybe I'm not fully sovereign in myself, because there's so many forces pushing and pulling. I think a lot of people are still going through that, if that makes any sense.
And all I can say is the internal shift I started making, 10 years ago, and then even now I constantly, also do it, to always shift from like, why is this happening, to what am I learning? Like, what is the universe teaching me right now? Because we'll keep attracting the same type of experiences until we increase our intelligence by learning a certain lesson, So that's why it's up to us to get out of, I think what you're talking about is like victim mentality, to actually be like the hero of our own story, and to realize that the pain that we've been through is actually an opportunity to deeply connect with others, because the same pain that you felt is similar to the pain that I felt. But it's also an opportunity to realize that the same love that you have felt is the same love I felt, and it's kind of bittersweet, but the more pain we feel, the more love we can also feel as well. And then the goal is to have like a bulletproof mindset, or just having a lot of equanimity, where we understand other people's behavior really has nothing to do with our value and our worth, because we're so connected, to our inner self, our source,
Right. Yes, we give expression to whatever is our higher self, and the true nature of who we really are. And it's a journey. I mean, and I love what you say about the questions. Like, it's the power of questions, really, because and that's what I love about the whole Thrive questionnaire and this model, because it is about asking yourself questions. And I just sort of envision, like, say, if you, or anybody who wants to use this, you can go to Thrive network website and just use it sort of as a tool to ask questions, constantly sort of going back into like, what are my values? What is really important to me? Because it can break some of that, habitual just passivity, or if for anybody who's really wanting to break out of the cycle of the victimhood, just working with a tool like that, I think it's beautiful. You can keep on asking questions and going deeper. It's like, what is my true value? What is really valuable? What is true to me? What is my mission? What is my vision? And where do I want to find myself within this whole spectrum? So it's very empowering. This is what I really love about Thrive. Like, it's extremely empowering to people and in what we can do.
And just know that we only need power if we're trying to harm somebody, because really all we need is love. Like, it really, it sounds cliche, but a lot of great people, great thinkers have said it, like Jimi Hendrix, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. And so it's having this coherent vision of world peace, because I believe in a lot of realms there already is peace. Because think about it, how could our atoms be going in and out of existence, and how could 70 trillion cells all be coordinated? Obviously, there's all this peace, and so there's that opportunity. And I'm sure, have you know about Socrates? So Socrates is considered a pioneer of philosophy, and philosophy is just the love of knowledge, the love of wisdom, and Socratic thinking is the root of education. Like, the word education means deduction, deducing. So this is what we're really talking about. So I think what you're alluding to is sometimes people confuse, like, they're reacting to like rational, like, thinking, like it's different. Because if we habitually react, we're not taking a step back to actually be rational about the situation. So Socrates, everything about Socratic thinking is asking questions. And I do my best. It's a challenge, because sometimes when it comes to encouraging others to be passionate about truth, we can't always speak in terms of like, this is a fact. We have to be a little mysterious and weave in things like, oh, it appears to be this way, but what do you think? Or it seems like this is the case. What do you think? Because that's real learning. That's real education. And that's what I aspire to embody, this perpetual love of learning. And it's just, we're all such magnificent beings, and we unlock our potential through the asking questions. Because like I said, because of the overload of information, we have to do the information output.
Yeah, for asking questions. Well, I mean, I think you wanted to encourage people to actually go to the Thrive website, right? And
it's
and
Thrive
start
movement, Thrive movement, because that's what this is. This is a movement for us to all thrive and stay posted. I think there's thrive2.com. People can put their email in and they'll get updates when Thrive 2 comes out. And I don't want to share too much, but I'm very convinced that the Space Force has a lot to do with unlocking our potential of free energy technology, because a lot of this suppressed knowledge, suppressed technology, it's been locked away under what's called special access programs, because the government and the military, they use contractors like Lockheed Martin to circumnavigate around Freedom of Information Act and being oversight by Congress. And so without, digressing too much, the day before September 11th, Donald Rumsfeld made a statement to the press that $2.3 trillion had gone missing from the Pentagon's budget. So is there some type of secret space program? And here I am, like Socrates, I'm not saying there is, I'm asking the question. So it's up to others to kind of, have this be an opportunity to pique their interest, their curiosity. And I will say that's something that really has helped me get through some tough times, times that, I'm still human. I feel fear sometimes, but the idea of switching from feeling fear to feeling curious about it. And then what's interesting is we realize that fear is only in the mind, because for one, we have the opportunity to choose, courage. But when it comes to, that's like a rational fear, like somebody's about to harm your loved one, they have a weapon or whatever, and it's like, you got to be courageous and just do something to protect them. But a lot of people's fear is irrational, and through leveraging their ability to be curious, they can completely transition from fear, anxiety, stress, worry to curiosity. And that's really a great opportunity for growth, to become curious, because then through that curiosity, a lot of people realize that it's like the programming, coming back to the subconscious programming, that there's some type of trauma, there's some type of lesson that needs to be addressed. And whatever their fear is, it's because they're being triggered. And, by using the breathing and these other techniques that I've been talking about, we've discussed, here today, they can actually bring it to the surface, bring it to light per se, and learn a lesson and move on and not attract those types of experiences anymore. So yeah, it's being curious, because how I feel about all of this is that it's all really a mystery, and it's going to always be a mystery. But on one hand, the mystery is love. So then it's kind of like not a mystery, but it is a mystery. It's a conundrum.
Yeah.
It's a paradox. But this is why words are funny, because semantics, how there can be different meanings, for words and all of that. So, but yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity to connect and share. And I really look forward to your Empower Your Health and Empower Your Life TV to grow.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alex. Well, this was great, and thank you for sharing. Yeah, I guess we just want to encourage people to go to share to Thrive. What was it? ThriveMovement.com, right?
Yes.
And check out the questionnaire and just start asking yourself questions and filling that out, and see where it takes you.
Exactly.
So yeah, well, thanks so much, Alex. This was great, and I appreciate your sharing all the different aspects of who you are and what you bring to the world. And thank you so much again, and I hope that we connect again. And wishing you all the best and success with your real estate as well ventures. So be well and take good care of yourself. Okay.
Will do, and thanks to all the viewers and listeners that tuned in the now. Like obviously live, but then whenever they watch it as well. So have a great rest of your day, Monica.
You too. Bye-bye.